Hi everyone and a warm welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about how do you prepare for CAT in the next 6 months. A lot of you must be wondering whether 6 months is sufficient or not to prepare for CAT. But if you plan it well and if you structure your 6 months properly, I'm sure you'll be able to achieve the objective that you have in mind. So let's understand how do you structure these 6 months. Now, the way we are going to do this is to divide our 6 months in 3 different brackets. Now, May to July is when you do a lot of learning and practicing. Now, you could be a classroom student, live student, online student, or a self-learning program kind of a student. No matter what program you have enrolled for and the way in which you are preparing, you have to focus on building the conceptual clarity in these 3 months. So learn the core concepts of all the topics very well. Don't be selective at this point of time. A lot of students make the mistake of saying that I'm going to study only these XYZ topics. Please don't do that. Even if you find a particular topic difficult, make sure that you understand all the concepts, the basic concepts at least really well. In this period, you will also start understanding what are the strengths and areas of improvement for you. There could be some sections or some areas where you have a natural inclination or tendency to solve better, faster, and more correctly. But there could be some areas where you naturally struggle, or because there is some sort of phobia that you have, you're not able to score properly in that particular subject. So understand what are the strengths and areas of improvement for you, because you're going to use this time as well as the time that you're going to have after this to work on these areas of improvement. In this period, focus more on accuracy than speed, because you can also develop speed at a later point of time. You will use the time after July to work on your speed. But initially, get the concepts very clear. And for a particular question, what is the best way to solve it? What is the accurate, the right way to solve a particular question that you should try to master? So rather than chasing speed, chase accuracy in this period. Another very important thing is to maintain your own notes, because there will be so many questions that you will be solving. It is practically not possible to revisit all those questions. So if you solve, let's say, 20 questions of a particular topic, when you're doing your revision, you will not be solving all those 20 questions again. So how do you still get the essence of those 20 questions? And here, maintaining your own notes is very, very important. If you have created your own notes, when you're doing your revision, you will save a lot of time. And maintaining own notes plus a formula book, whatever you want to call it, just keep that with you so that for later reference, it is going to be a very handy tool for you. And lastly, a lot of you might be scared of SimCATs at this point of time. SimCATs are our full-length mock test series. Now, when you're solving these papers, don't worry too much. Even if you score low, that's still fine. Try to judge yourself based on the topics that you have studied rather than the entire syllabus. So even if you don't get a good score, your score is low, maybe you're a little disappointed. That is completely understandable. But keep the momentum going. Don't skip SimCATs. That is something that will not help you. Rather than that, if you take every single SimCAT that comes your way and try to do justice to whatever areas or the topics that you have prepared, you will have a far better outcome. Now let's understand what is it that you should be doing in each of the sections. Let's start with VRC. For VRC, the first thing is to actually solve RCs. So begin with something like 2 RCs per day. If you want to do more, definitely go ahead and you can do 3 or even 4 RCs. But even 2 RCs, if you're able to do on a continuous basis for the next 2 months, it will give you a good exposure and practice. Another thing that really helps in VRC preparation is general reading, especially from international sources such as The Guardian or the New York Times. If you're able to take out 30 minutes of your time per day and read articles from these sources, it will definitely help you a lot. Also, make sure that you solve verbal questions. The suggested number is 5 to begin with. If you want to do more and if you have time, you can definitely look at solving even 10 verbal questions per day. And lastly, VRC is one area where when you're solving it in SimCAT, you will see that your take or your way of approaching a question or looking at a particular passage is possibly different from what the actual answer is. Try to see where that gap is. Question your decisions. Try to figure out what was the thought process that you had and what is the actual thought process that you should have had. Let's now look at the logical reasoning and data interpretation section. For LRDI, a lot of it is going to be pure practice. So you need to aim for solving at least 3 sets per day and time yourself as much as possible. So the suggested time for 3 sets would be 40 minutes, but even if you take a little more time, that's completely okay. Another thing that you should do is solving puzzles such as Sudoku, Kakuro, Kenken. These puzzles help you in number retention and working out different possibilities. So this is peripheral preparation that will help you while you're actually solving a logical reasoning or a data interpretation set. And lastly, whenever you look at a set, ask yourself whether I should be solving this set or not. So whatever mocks that you take or the practice that you're doing, when you look at a set, figure out whether it is a familiar set. Does it look very difficult? Does it look lengthy? Will I be able to do this or not? Ask yourself these questions and improve your set selection. And lastly, let's talk about the quant section. One of the most important elements of quant is your calculation speed. And that is why you should set aside about 10 to 15 minutes to practice calculations. Just write down some questions on a piece of paper, time yourself, and see if you're able to solve those questions. You can then use a calculator to check whether you got it right or not. And then look at your rough sheet as well. See how much of it were you able to do mentally and how much you actually solved on the sheet. Then, of course, solving questions. So 25 questions per day is what you should aim for. Again, if you're able to do more, nothing like it. But 75 minutes if you're able to take out and do about 25 questions. I think that should be a good number to start with. And as I said, maintain a formula or new concept book because quant is a very vast area. There are a lot of topics and a lot of concepts and a lot of formulae. You're going to come across so many new things that it will be very difficult for you to retain it if you don't write it properly. So make sure that you create your own notes. Write down whenever you encounter a new formula or any concept or any shortcut. It should go somewhere so that you can refer it at a later point of time. Now let's talk about the next 2 months, August and September. The focus now will start shifting towards practice and test because you would have covered most of the concepts. So the learn part is more or less done. But in case there are any remaining topics, try to finish them as early as possible. Also budget some time for revising the things that you have studied in the first 2 months of your preparation. By this time, you would have realized what are the areas of improvement for you. There could be a certain number of topics in verbal ability. There could be a few topics in quant, and there could be some areas that you struggle with in LR and DI. Try to identify these areas of improvement and now do dedicated practice. So selective practice is what you will have to do to work on these areas and possibly convert them into strengths. You should also start restricting the time that you're taking now to solve questions. So focus on timed practice. Whenever you solve a question, figure out how much time you're taking to solve that question. Earlier in the initial months, it was not a problem. You could take as much time as you wanted to solve some questions. But now you'll have to think whether am I using my time effectively? So whenever you solve questions, keep a timer next to you, or when you're doing online questions, it becomes much easier because you're actually able to see how much time you are using. So focus on time practice in these months. Now, in addition to taking SimCATs, you should also look at solving past CAT papers, especially 2003 to 2008. They are available as PDF in my IMS login. So you can solve questions from 2003 to 2008 CAT. There are a lot of question types which used to appear back then that don't appear anymore. So be selective. You can ignore some of the areas that are not tested anymore. And lastly, use this time to master the ABC method. Now, what is this ABC method of question selection? A stands for Abhi Karo, which means you do it right away. These are easy questions. B stands for Baad Mein Karo, which means you will do it a little later. These are moderate difficulty questions. And C stands for Chhod Do, leave those questions. So these are the difficult ones. Whenever you see a question, you should be able to figure out whether it is category A, B, or C, or easy, moderate, or difficult. Should I be doing it right now? Should I be doing it later? Or should I completely skip this question in a test condition? So the more questions you solve and the more you try to master this approach, eventually when you take the CAT, you will be able to implement it in a much better way. So that brings us to the last 2 months, which is October onwards. Now the focus entirely is going to be on test taking. So start analyzing your SIMCATs really well. Of course, even in the previous months, you should have done it. But now your focus will start shifting towards understanding what is it that is going wrong and stopping me from achieving the score or the potential that I have. So the detailed analysis of SIMCATs at a question level is something that you should be doing. You should also start thinking about what is the strategy that you should follow. For example, in VRC, some students like to do verbal first and then they do RCs. Some students do RC first and then VA. And some students do one RC, then go to verbal and do a couple of questions, then again come back and do some RCs. So what sort of strategy works for you? It's something that you'll have to figure out. You are also now ready to solve the past CAT papers, which are 2017 onwards. These papers are there in public domain. And in my IMS dashboard, you will be able to access these papers as test. So you can actually time yourself and take it as an actual CAT paper. So 2017 onwards paper are very, very crucial. And last 2 months is what you should keep reserved to solve these papers. In the last leg of your preparation, workshops and masterclass becomes very important because these workshops and masterclasses have questions of a certain quality. By now, you are already done with the core concepts. You have practiced a lot of questions. So now you're ready to face the difficult questions, which will be handled through workshops and masterclasses. Also start thinking about the additional management tests that you're planning to take, whether you're planning to take the NMAT, which typically starts around October, or you might be thinking of some other exams such as the ZAT or the SNAP or the IFT and so on. You should also start thinking about which colleges you want to apply to. So give some thoughts to ADMAT as well as the application strategy in these 2 months. And the most important thing is the psychological preparation. CAT preparation is not a smooth journey. You will see a lot of crests and troughs, and there will be days when you feel like giving up. So maintaining positive attitude and mindset is very, very important. Stay away from negative people and never lose the sight of the dream that you have started this entire journey with. So let's summarize now what we discussed. The prep timeline looks something like this. May to July, the focus is on understanding concepts and building section level awareness. So knowing that, okay, I'm good at verbal, but I'm not good at quant, something like that. From where do you do this? Is theory from modules. So the courseware that has been given to you. You can use concept videos. You can definitely do practice exercises and class exercises. So these are very important sources that all the IMS students have. Make sure that you make good use of this. What should be the target percentile? You can look at something like 80 percentile to begin with. Keep that as your target and work towards it. But even if you don't see that thing happening in the first few months, it's completely fine. So don't give up. Moving to August and September, now try to aim higher. Of course, aim for 95 percentile at this point of time. If it is plus or minus here and there, that's absolutely fine. But think of how you can build topic level awareness now. So rather than saying, I am not good at quant, you should be able to say, I am not good at a particular topic in quant. Where do you practice from? The practice module that you have, the workshops and the master classes that you will have, the past CAT papers that we talked about, and the sectional tests that you're going to have. Continue to take SIMCATs during this period as well. And that brings us to the last 2 months, which is October and November. Aim as high as possible. So you should aim for 99 percentile or higher. And now, by now, you should have question level awareness that I'm not good at this particular specific topic within quant, and within that particular topic, this is the question that I'm not able to solve. So that question level awareness is something that will help you on the D-Day in deciding whether you should solve one question or skip it completely. So this is how your entire preparation timeline is going to look like. Of course, there's a lot to talk about, but I have tried to do whatever I could in this particular video. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Feel free to put them as comments and I'll be happy to answer those. I hope you have found this video useful. In case you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel and Telegram channel, please do it immediately because we'll bring out a lot of content over the next 6 months, which will help you in your CAT preparation journey. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.